Hey, it's me, Vicki Marie. And good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are in this crazy, crazy world we're living in. So, as you know, I've been concentrating a little bit the last couple of videos on unsolved crimes. And today I'm going to talk about Mr. Cruel. And Mr. Cruel was responsible, allegedly, for a series of crimes in Australia. Now, somebody suggested this, or somebody talked about this when I was doing another unsolved crime the other day, and it wasn't something I knew much about. So I have researched it, and I'm going to tell you, my thoughts on it, on this Mr. Cruel. It's cases from quite a long time ago, but it's still, of course, we saw with we saw that the Australian police have just recently arrested someone for a crime from 40 odd years ago, so they're not going to give up on Mr. Cruel, which it also is quite a long time ago, but not quite 40 odd years. Anyway, I'm going to tell you about it all in a moment. First of all, I just want to say, if you're new to my channel, my name is Vicki Marie. I do videos about true crime more or less every day. I release a video. Please subscribe if you end up liking this video, so that you can see more. Don't forget to press the notification button so you can see more videos, similar videos. Also, something I often forget to say, there are a lot of videos on my channel, so if you're ever stuck for something to watch, have a little scroll around. I've probably done a video about most famous true crimes that you know about. Put into the search engine the case that you're interested in, and it's likely that a video will come up. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who watches, everyone who likes my channel. Don't forget to leave your fingerprint on the like button, please, because that's a free way you can help out my channel. I want to thank especially my members. I want to thank everybody who's PayPal'd me, bought me a Ko-fi, or supported my channel in any way, shape or form. Thank you so much. And yes, why not become a member? Members, we have special live streams every week. And that means that you can actually suggest a case for me to cover if you're a member. Okay, so let's take the banner off and let's chat about this Mr. Cruel. Now, Mr. Cruel was a nickname, if you like, that was given to this, the thing is, I was going to say this killer, but the four cases that are generally attributed to Mr. Cruel are three sort of abductions or assaults on young girls and an actual murder of a young girl. Personally, I don't feel that the fourth case, the murder of the young girl, we'll see as we talk through it, and I'll tell you why. I'm not sure that is actually connected to Mr. Cruel, to the same person, because it's the only time that he actually killed anybody. Don't get me wrong, it was bad enough what he did to the other victims, but it seemed like a very sort of different thing that he did with this girl. Anyway, I'm going to explain it to you. So first of all, let's have a look. Now, we don't have any, nobody knows who this person is, but what we do have, we don't have a photo or anything like that, but we do have a reconstruction of the balaclava that supposedly Mr. Cruel, as the name he was given, was wearing when he did the first three attacks, which actually he left these victims alive. Why did he leave these 3 victims alive, but the 4th victim, he didn't? This is my question. And there's a little bit more to it, I think. Personally, I think the 4th case, the murder, it may be unrelated, possibly. But I'm sure the police have looked into that as well. So we're going back a little bit in time to talk about Mr. Cruel. So he's an unidentified serial child rapist, and he attacked 3 girls in the northern and eastern suburbs of Melbourne in Victoria in the late 1980s and early 90s. And even more shocking than that, he's the prime suspect in the 1991 abduction and murder of a 4th girl, Karmein Chan. So where do we start with this? Because to me, when you look into the actual crimes, he seemed to have no problem going in the first 3 crimes. He had all of them really, no problem in going into someone's house. The first crime, he tied up the parents. The parents were there. He tied up the parents. He tied up their other child, a son. And he attacked their daughter. And not only that, as if that's not bad enough, he kept his face covered at all times. He left no forensic traces whatsoever. He actually washed his victim, bathed his victim. His first victim he did not take out of the house. The whole attack happened within this poor girl's own home, with her parents in earshot, really, and her brother tied up on his bed. He even took a break to eat something. He was so comfortable in this house. This strikes me. Why was he so comfortable? How did he know that house so well? Is he somebody who'd been in the house for some reason? Maybe he'd been in there to do some work in there. This makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is that how he planned out his crimes, by actually, was he a tradesman of some kind? Anyway, he was armed with knives, all handguns in his attacks. So the first one that he did was on the 20th. Well, the first one that we know of course, was on the 22nd of August in 1987. And he broke into a family home at 4 a.m. in the morning with a knife and a handgun. He tied the hands and feet of both parents and locked them in a wardrobe, tied the son to the bed, and RAPD'd the 11-year-old daughter. He had cut the telephone lines. So that was 22nd of August 1987. The next one that the police have connected with him was quite a little bit later, on the 27th of December 1988, so over a year later. But these type of offenders don't normally wait that long, do they? But anyway, he broke into a family home via the back door, this time around 5:20 a.m, wearing a balaclava, armed with a handgun. He bound and gagged the parents. Imagine, for a parent, there can't be much worse. It's bad enough if your child gets abducted from outside your home, but can you imagine somebody actually coming into your home, binding and gagging you and taking away your child from the home right in front of you? I mean, I think that's got to be about the worst thing, isn't it? Anyway, he grabbed their 10-year-old daughter. He put tape over her eyes and a ball gag in her mouth, and he abducted her. But 18 hours later, he released her in the grounds of a high school, Bayswater High School. Then the third crime that the police say they think was him was again quite a bit later, because on the 3rd of July 1990. So what these big gaps in between, 22nd of August 1987, 27th of December 1988, 3rd of July 1990. He broke into a family home at 11:30 p.m. with a knife and a gun and wearing a balaclava. He tied and gagged a 13-year-old girl, placed tape over her eyes, disabled the phone. So these have all got, so far they've got very similar modus operandi, haven't they? Except for the first one, everything took place in the home. Whereas the next two, he actually removed the child from the home and took her away somewhere. Disabled the phones, searched for money, and then drove her to another house and kept her for 50 hours. So this time, the others, like the first one wasn't taken away from the home. The second one was released 18 hours later. And the third one was kept for 50 hours. And then he released her at a power substation in the suburb of Kew. Now, then, of course, these are the ones that you can see that they seem similar. You can see why the police would connect them. The thing is, there does seem quite a long gap in between. Where was he in those gaps? Or maybe he did commit other ones that, I think those sort of crimes would get reported, wouldn't they? You know, they're quite, it's not like just a burglary that somebody might not want to report. But anyway, they're the ones that they've connected together and they feel were definitely this so-called Mr. Cruel. Now, the next one was in 1991 on the 13th of April. And as I say that, was this even Mr. Cruel? Because this one, it was on the 13th of April 1991. It was a 13-year-old girl called Karmein Chan. Now, she went to the same school, though, as the one before, the victim from Canterbury. She went to the same school. So there is a connection in that sense. But the difference is a man in a balaclava, all the same, broke into the family home, but at 8:40 p.m. So that's a difference right away, isn't it? So it's evening rather than early hours of the morning. And, maybe that doesn't mean anything. But poor Karmein, she was looking after her two sisters, younger sisters. They were put into the wardrobe, and he apparently dragged Karmein Chan out by her hair. Now that again, because he didn't do that with the other victims. In fact, strange as it might seem, they said he was apart from when he was actually abusing them, but he was very solicitous of their welfare. He was very polite. He wasn't aggressive in that sense. But with this girl, for some reason, he dragged her out of the house by her hair. And Karmein did not turn up until a year later, when she had 3 gunshots to the head. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit about that particular case. I will be talking about the other victims too. But this one in particular for me is maybe not the same person. And it did occur to me that as she went to the same school as the other victim, is that what gave these people or this person the idea, maybe, to do it? I don't know. Anyway, very recently there has been, am I on the wrong one there? Oh yeah. Now recently, well, not that recently, but I found this video that was saying that the in 2000, when was it? 13 years ago, this was reopened. So let's have a look at that video actually before we look at the other things, because this will then give you an idea of I'll be able to explain to you why I think this case is different. I just do. I've just got a feeling. I don't feel this is to do with the so-called Mr. Cruel. But the other thing that's a mystery is, where is it? Why did he stop? Even if this was the work of me, maybe he stopped because he went too far with this one. Maybe he realised he'd gone too far and he thought, I can't do this again. Because since then, there's been nothing that's been connected to the same person. Or is he dead? Did he get ill? Did he move to another country? You know, he's got a very, for the first 3 attacks anyway, he's got a very, very specific modus operandi. And, you know, his attention to detail forensically left no forensics behind, and it's led a lot of people, myself included, to wonder if he wasn't actually a policeman or some kind of detective. Why was he so forensically aware at a time when really forensics were not that known about? I mean, now I think we're all a little bit forensically aware because we watch, you know, all these YouTube true crime channels, and we watch detective stories on the TV, etc. You know, we all know a lot more than we did about forensics. But I think in this time, why was he so knowledgeable? Is he a police officer? Is he a detective, a private detective, an ex-police officer? And is he even still alive?
Police say they have a new lead in their hunt for a notorious paedophile and killer who terrorised Melbourne in the late 80s and early 90s. They've never found the man they call Mr. Cruel, who is believed to have murdered 13-year-old Karmein Chan and attacked at least 3 other schoolgirls. But now, after an exhaustive investigation, police say they have several new suspects. Kerry Ritchie reports.
It's the saddest of school photos. In 1991, Karmein Chan was abducted from her home in the Melbourne suburb of Templestowe. The 13-year-old's body was found a year later. She'd been shot 3 times in the head.
Now, being shot 3 times in the head, that's a real execution style killing, isn't it? And there was a lot of aspersions cast on her father, who, not that saying that he'd done it, but that he was involved, like her parents owned a restaurant, a Chinese restaurant. And there was a lot of talk, and it is only talk, you know, that maybe her father was involved in some sort of drugs type thing, you know, triad type scenario. He certainly disappeared soon after. The father, as far as I know, he's not still around. As you know, it's possible, isn't it? Just seems very different, this case somehow, of Karmein. But you know, maybe not. Maybe it was the guy. Maybe the reason that he killed her was maybe she saw his, some people have said maybe she saw his face, maybe she realised where he'd taken her to, you know, who knows, maybe she kicked up too much of a fuss and he lost it and killed her. But just does seem so very different from the other girls, that he was careful to return safely.
Karmein Chan's killer was dubbed Mr. Cruel by a journalist, and it stuck, but he was never caught.
There were a number of young female victims that were abducted from their homes, assaulted, and that culminated in the final victim being Karmein Chan, where she was murdered.
15,000 people were interviewed in the largest investigation in Victoria's history. Now police have new information, and have identified new suspects. They won't give any more detail, but say these people were not questioned 20 years ago.
The person who committed these crimes is in amongst our society, or was.
In amongst our society now. So this is quite a long time ago, this video, but nothing has come of it. You know, here we are, another 13 years on. And as far as we know, the police are no further on. But as we've seen with the Easy Street murders and the arrests that they've just made at the airport in Rome, who knows? Maybe there have been developments, but they're just not ready yet to tell us about them.
At the time of them. So he was associating with people, more than likely held a job down. So there is someone out there who has got information, we think, that hasn't been passed on.
For 20 years, Karmein Chan's mother has stayed in contact with senior police working on the case. Phyllis Chan didn't want to speak to journalists today and asked that her family's privacy be respected. Some officers who worked on the case believe Mr Cruel may be dead or living in another country because his reign of terror ended suddenly. But Superintendent Doug Fryer says until that's confirmed, Victorian police won't rest and will not close the case.
I don't think Victoria's ever going to forget this series of crimes. They were that horrendous.
When speaking to his victims, Mr Cruel used the terms bozo, worrywart and missy. Police hope that
Bozo, worrywart and missy, these are terms that he used when he was talking about his victims. That's interesting, isn't it? Like, you know, like he was, I don't know, like he's used to talking to children. Maybe he's got his own children, you know. But anyway, but that's his other victims. Obviously, poor Karmein, she can't tell us the sort of things that he said to her. But I'm going to show you a video in a minute of the press conference when she went missing, which is what just seemed to me maybe her particular case is not related to Mr. Cruel.
these terms might trigger someone's memory. There is a $300,000 reward. Kerry Ritchie.
Well, there's actually $1 million reward now. Just the same as what they put on the Easy Street murders. $1 million reward now for information leading to catching Mr. Cruel. And the thing is, you know, as I've said about all the unsolved cases, over time allegiances change. You know, people die, perhaps. So if there's somebody out there who knows who Mr. Cruel is, but they've been scared maybe for years to say anything, something might have changed now. Mr. Cruel might have died. He could be in prison. But, you know, so there's somebody out there who probably does know something about Mr. Cruel. And as time goes on, you know, things change. So it's never that news about the Easy Street killer being apprehended, or alleged killer being apprehended at Rome Airport. You know, it really gave me a good feeling that these unsolved cases, they can be cleared up, especially with DNA, etc. Now, he's supposed to have not left any DNA anywhere, but there must be something, surely. But anyway, maybe not. But they may have something that they're keeping, the police might have something they're keeping to themselves.
ABC News, Melbourne.
So, yeah, very, very interesting, isn't it? You know, who is this person? Who is Mr. Cruel? So even just in 2023, there was some news. This is, just recently, literally. God, it can't be today. Sunday, September the 22nd. Is that today? Oh, it is. So this is the Daily Mail, unless they've just changed the date on it. Exclusive, secret Mr. Cruel witness claims she has stunning new information that could finally unmask the feared child killer who stalked Melbourne in the 80s and lashes out at the cops in a chilling warning. you know, I don't know how, it's a bit dramatic, but Mr. Cruel attacked 4 girls in Melbourne. As I say, the 4th one, Karmein, I'm not sure. In Melbourne from 1987 to 1991, he abducted 3 of them from their homes in front of families. No, he didn't actually, because the first one he did not abduct from the home. They don't get their, you know, this is the mainstream media. I'm reading from the mainstream media because they're supposed to be, you know, supposed to be reliable, and I know more than they do, and I've only been researching it for one day. Anyway, didn't abduct 3 from their homes in front. Oh, unless they're including Karmein in that, I suppose. Mr. Cruel's face was not seen by anyone. This witness claims to know where Mr. Cruel lives, and $1 million Australian reward is on offer for Mr. Cruel conviction. $1 million. So a woman who believes she knows where feared child killer Mr. Cruel lives claims she's being ignored by stubborn homicide squad detectives. Well, you know, I'm sorry, I don't believe that for a minute. The police, they're dying to catch this guy. They're not going to ignore her because they're just being stubborn. I don't believe that. Mr. Cruel, whose identity is still unknown, assaulted at least 4 young girls in Melbourne in the late 1980s and early 90s, abducting 3 and killing 1. So Karmein Chan, a 13-year-old private schoolgirl, snatched from her home after her sisters were forced into a wardrobe, was shot 3 times in the head. Very sad, that. Daily Mail Australia can reveal that the Melbourne woman, who has asked to remain anonymous, has fought for 3 years to be formally interviewed by Victorian homicide detectives who have refused to speak to her, apart from a brief phone conversation. Honestly, I don't. Can you believe that? Do you believe that the police would refuse to speak to her? Just to being stubborn? Doesn't ring true, does it? I can't sleep knowing what I know and not being able to tell Karmein's family. This has really impacted me mentally, and I think the police have been pretty cold in not even offering me any kind of support. They've spent 10 or 12 hours over the years writing letters and making excuses about why they won't talk to me when they could have interviewed me in an hour. Just seems strange, doesn't it? I just want to tell them what I know and they can make up their own minds on how to act on it. Now, this is the press conference. This is Karmein's, this is her father here, this is her mother. She's holding up her T-shirt and they did this press conference. You tell me what you think. I know what I think, but there's something strange about this for me.
Police and Phyllis Chan were hoping that he just had this much amount of human decency and that he would watch that and think, yes, I'll release her.
Please, release my daughter.
Nueva gama Ofesa Inspire. Ajuste automático de la potencia.
Oh God, it's taking me to the bloody advert now. Anyway, this is poor Karmein. She was 13. So as I say, she did go to the same school as the victim from the year before. So there was a tie, you know, there is a tie there. It just seems funny. You know, why did he change his modus operandi? You know, he started off breaking into houses in the early hours of the morning, whereas this time he went in at sort of in the evening time, dragged her out by the hair, apparently. I mean, what an awful thing to do, but he hadn't done that kind of thing before. And then executed her. So this is where she was found, and they're Buddhists, the family, so they had like a Buddhist ceremony at the site. Let's have a look at the photos. So Karmein Chan's mother visited the site where her brother Karmein's body was found a year after she was abducted from her home. Mrs. Chan and her husband had made tearful public appeals for Karmein's safe return, and police believe that the girl may have seen her abductor's face. She may have pulled the balaclava off and seen his face, and then he thought he can't let her survive. It's possible, of course. Oh, now this was interesting. This was a sketch that was made by one of his victims. This was where he took her to. Now you can't. I don't. There is one in colour but because these curtains were pink. So the girl did this sketch of what the room was like where she was kept. Well, she didn't make the sketch. She described the room, and the police sketched it, and then she said, yes, that's what it's like. So these curtains were pink, and this headboard was pink. So that makes me feel that there must be a woman, involved somewhere there. Surely this man, he wouldn't have had pink curtains and a pink. Let me see if I can find because I saw it in colour. The other thing that a couple of the girls noticed is they could hear planes taking off. This one's got it as orange. Sorry, not pink, peach coloured. Now I'm gonna upload that. Hang on. I can upload it and show it you then. Yeah, not pink, peach. Sorry, that's my memory. God. I only saw that today, and I'm already thinking, it just shows you how unreliable witnesses are. I'm already thinking it was pink, and it wasn't. It was peach. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? So, this was it. Let's see, I can't see the things that it says there. Hang on. So we've got a black or grey or brown blanket over a unit, a peach coloured full length curtain, camera on a wooden tripod. So it's thought that he probably did take some photos as well. Now, what happened was that one of the victims, the girls, he'd left her instructions to never lift up her blindfold because she was blindfolded too. And when he left the room for a minute, she did have a little look at. That's how she made this description. So a beige or cream coloured carpet, a camera on a wooden tripod there in the middle, a double bed with a peach coloured bed head. Just made me think maybe there's a woman in that house. Now, maybe the woman would go away every now and again, and that's why, maybe he could only do it, take the child somewhere when the woman had gone away. Or maybe he wasn't. Maybe there was no woman in the house. Maybe, maybe he did live alone. That's possible too, but I'm just sort of, I don't know, I'm just speculating. So the lamp had a yellow, white striped shade, and it was an orange or peach coloured lamp base. So it's all matching. And then there was a bedside unit on the other table, on the other side as well. Now, whether there was only one lamp on one side, then maybe he did live on his own if there was only one lamp. But it may be that she only saw the one lamp. She didn't get time to look at the other side. So I thought that was quite a distinctive bedroom as well. I don't know. You'd think if somebody saw that and it was their bedroom or they'd been in that bedroom, that maybe they would remember it, but so that was what the little girl described the room as. So here in the Daily Mail, they've not got it coloured in, they've just got the picture. This is a sketch of what they think he might look like. A Channel 9 investigation, but there's nothing to say that it does look like that, to be honest. These are where he attacked, you know, so you can see it's in a certain, you know, it is within a certain area. He didn't go far, well, as far as we know, didn't go far outside that area. They did the 4 attacks, the first one in Lower Plenty, the second one in Bayswater, third one in Canterbury, and she was dropped off in Kew. And this is the victim who went to the same school as Karmein, the girl who was shot. So all these 3 victims were not shot. And it's interesting, though, and it could be that they're related, because Karmein was taken from Thomastown, but she was actually dumped. Her poor little body was dumped not far from where the first one had gone missing from. I do think there's something significant maybe there, because if it was him that took Karmein, because that, I think it's strange that in that first house, he stayed in the house. He felt so comfortable in that house where he's, you know, assaulted his first victim. He felt so comfortable that he tied the parents up, tied her brother to the bed. He then assaulted her. He spent quite a long time there. He had something to eat. He bathed her. He was so comfortable in that house. Did he know those first people? Maybe that's what gave him the appetite for it. But then after that, his victims were always taken away. So, you know, you do feel that, God, how comfortable would you have to feel in a house to do all that and stay there for all those hours doing those things? You would have to be comfortable that nobody was going to come looking for them. You know, you just feel like you'd have to know quite a lot about that family. Whereas with the others, he got the girls out, as you know, immediately and away, and took them to a safe house, if you like, a place where he felt safe and comfortable. But with that first attack, he didn't feel like he had to leave the house. I do feel like there might be something significant there. Anyway, here we go again. This is John and Phyllis Chan, the parents. So the mother was like hysterical, as you saw, though I don't, you know, is there tears? I don't mean to be horrible, but I just, as soon as I saw this, I just felt strange about it. The father's very, you know, inscrutable, isn't he? He's not, does it, he was adamant that it was nothing to do with any drug wars. He didn't get involved in drugs, blah, 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 because a lot of people were saying it might be to do with the triads because of the execution style killing of Karmein. Now, I don't know if the triads would get involved with children, you know, killing children. It seems to me, I mean, I do know a little bit about the triads because a lot of you will know if you've read my book, Confessions of a Spanish Teacher, but you won't know if you haven't read it. But I was married to a Chinese man many years ago. And anyway, he, you know, to cut a long story very short, he knew people in the triad. I don't know if they get involved with children. Do you know, it's like a lot of these gangland, they don't go around killing children. You know, other triad members, they're fair game, to be honest. and other gang members in other types of gangs, isn't it? But do they go killing children? So maybe not. Maybe he didn't have anything to do with it. Maybe it was Mr. Cruel after all. But there's just something about this TV thing I just felt wrong to me. But that's only a feeling. And there she is, Karmein. Oh, so this is a sketch. This is another sketch that one of the girls who was released from Mr. Cruel's clutches helped the police draw this sketch of her abductor's car. Well, it's difficult, isn't it? Because a car is a car. So she said, possibly cream interior with an armrest. So this is a Melbourne homicide. Now, I've been watching quite a lot of videos today about Mr. Cruel, and unfortunately I can't really show them because they'll be copyrighted, etc. But they're definitely, seen a lot. I've seen a lot of detectives. Charlie, the famous Australian detective, he was talking on them. They're all giving their thoughts about it, but really nobody knows, do they? So here's two of the other victims, Sharon Wills and Nicola Lynas. So they did go older as well. So Nicola Lynas, she's the one that went to the same school as Karmein. I mean, that's quite chilling because on those photos, they've both got the same school uniform shirts on. So it makes you wonder, was this guy, did he know the school? Was he another parent maybe of one of the other children that went to the school? Maybe these girls were friends of his children, whereas Sharon was only 10. And I don't know why the other girl's not on there, but she was only about 10 as well. Maybe they wanted her to be anonymous. So Sharon survived. Nicola survived, although Nicola was, taken for a long, long time, much longer than Sharon. So each time maybe he was escalating because the first child wasn't even taken out of the home. Sharon was taken away but returned quite quickly, whereas Nicola was taken away and returned quite a long time afterwards. And then Karmein was never returned. So it could be that he was escalating. But I don't think that's chilling that those two girls, Nicola and Karmein, have actually got the same blouse on, the same school uniform because they went to the same school. So, was he watching that school? Or as I say, did he have a girl who was friends with these girls? How did he know so much about them? So Sharon was found just walking down the road in bin bags. He dressed her in bin bags. There's a dog howling out there. I don't know what's going on. So he dressed her in bin bags and she was just literally walking down the road and somebody found her. Bless her. What's this? Yeah, so these are possible photo fits of him. But really, they don't know. They don't know because this is what he was always wearing. And so, they can't get a good picture of him. Let me just...
Police and Phyllis Chan were hoping that he just had this much amount of human decency and that he would watch that and think, yes, I'll release her.
Please, release my daughter.
So, anyway, who knows? So what do you think about this? I wonder if this woman has got detailed information. But surely the police, they're not just going to ignore her. Surely. Anyway, he forced the girls he assaulted to wash and carefully brush their teeth and fed some of them meals even while they were being abused. No useful forensic evidence was recovered from any of his crime scenes. There were no fingerprints to compare or any trace of DNA. And this woman claims she contacted Crime Stoppers multiple times in the hope of being interviewed by cold case detectives in charge of the case. While she spoke briefly to a detective over the phone for about 5 minutes, her further attempts for a sit-down interview fell on deaf ears. Desperate, the woman spoke to a senior crime detective from her local police station who advocated on her behalf to the homicide squad without success. The frustrated woman even contacted retired homicide squad detective Ron Iddles in the hope he might be able to pull some strings. I didn't want to go public with this. I don't want this man destroying evidence now after all these years. I just want to tell police what I know. While Mr. Cruel is now an elderly man, the woman remains fearful he could still pose a threat. A Victoria Police spokeswoman told Daily Mail Australia that a homicide squad detective spoke to the woman on the phone. However determined, the information she supplied via Crime Stoppers was not able to progress this investigation, so the police have said it wasn't relevant. So it's a shame, because it'd be good, wouldn't it? Gosh, after catching the guy or the alleged murderer of the Easy Street killings, but I think the police would be absolutely delirious and over the moon if they managed to catch Mr. Cruel. So yeah, Sharon Wills, 10, was abducted in 1988, and Nicola Lynas, 13, in 1991. And the 11-year-old girl, they're not naming. So in 2016, Victoria Police announced a $1 million reward for anyone who could provide information leading to the conviction of Karmein's killer. And the woman believes that the reward, combined with the historic cost of the Mr. Cruel investigation, is behind the homicide squad's decision. Oh, come on. Money appears to be the real pressure point now. With this investigation, the woman said they're paranoid about people just wanting to get their hands on the reward. Well, they would not have put the reward up if they weren't prepared to pay it, if they'd done the same with the other one. The mystery clean freak's brazen attacks were so meticulously planned and committed in such a calculated fashion, he was initially known as Mr. Cool, and none of his surviving victims ever saw Mr. Cruel's face, which was hidden by a chilling black balaclava with white stitching around the eyes and mouth. The woman claims Mr. Cruel did not act alone and believes his accomplice is the man detectives believe is Mr. Cruel. Oops, there goes the bangers again. So the woman claims he did not act alone. Last year, Channel 9's Under Investigation produced an image of the man it believed was Mr. Cruel, suggesting he may have worked or posed as a substation employee or lived close by. Mr. Cruel's first victim was not removed from her house and was instead assaulted just meters away from her parents, who'd been bound and gagged. God. But the next 3 were all abducted. 2 would return home, but Karmein would never be seen again. Yeah, what was different about Karmein? Why was Karmein shot 3 times? And having said that, that may have frightened him to death that he did that, because as far as we know, there have been no attacks since. So his second victim was dropped off near the Bayswater electrical substation 18 hours after being abducted. His third victim was released near a substation in Kew, just 10 minutes from her house. Both victims also lived near substations. They tried to make a connection that maybe he was an electrician. It's a bloody electricians again, isn't it? Maybe he had some connection with the substations, and that's how he could blend into the background, because these things happen near substations, and maybe nobody would notice a workman, an electrician going around. So both victims also lived near substations just 20 minutes apart in East Camberwell and Ringwood, while the first victim lived near one in Lower Plenty, and his fourth victim, Karmein's remains, were found near a substation known as the Thomastown Terminal Station, also in close proximity to the other electrical substations. Karmein and one of Mr. Cruel's other victims also both attended the Presbyterian School, Ladies' College, which was across the road from a substation. So yeah, maybe there is a connection with all of them. The fact that it's all in about a 20-minute drive from each other in that area, the offender has to feel comfortable in order to function. Senior law enforcement investigator Mike King told presenter Liz Hayes, from a geographic perspective, we just have to keep thinking, why is he comfortable in this area? Why is he selecting his victims where he is? And why is he disposing of them where he is? And as I say, the two girls that went to his house, or probably to his house, heard aeroplanes taking off on a regular basis, so it must be near an airport somehow. There are reasons why he selected those locations to drop off those victims. There are absolute reasons why he selected the victims he did. Shockingly, a witness told the programme that in 1988, her brothers saw a strange man filming one of his victims' homes 6 weeks before she was taken. The house backed onto a block of electrical towers. So seems like he was some sort of electrician of some kind. So, gosh, this is odd, isn't it? So that Mr. Cruel came to the attention of police on August the 22nd, 1987, when he broke into a family home at Lower Plenty in Melbourne's northeastern suburbs. Once inside, he tied up the parents in their bedroom, covered their eyes with surgical tape and forced them into a wardrobe. Then he blindfolded and gagged their 6-year-old son, bless him, tied him to his bed and went after his 11-year-old sister. And he made her brush her teeth, and then he assaulted her. He cut the phone lines, told the girl she could free her parents after she counted slowly to 100. And all in all, he spent about 2 hours in the house, even making himself a meal. That's what just seems to me, surely he'd want to get out of there as soon as possible. How was he so comfortable that he actually even made himself something to eat? He next struck on December 27, 1988, when he broke into a family home where he found 4 girls at Ringwood. Having threatened the parents with a gun and tying them up with copper wire, he bound their 10-year-old daughter, covered her mouth and eyes with tape, and abducted her. Oh, now this was a strange one, because this family, there were 4 daughters. They had 4 daughters, and they'd been on the telly. They'd been on the telly because they'd had a fire in their home. And what it made me think, well, it could be like one of the firefighters even, couldn't it? Again, how were they so comfortable? How did he know so much about the home, about how many people would be in there, etc.? Oh, God. Anyway, he covered her mouth and eyes with tape and abducted her. And then the next night, 18 hours after she'd been snatched, the girl was dropped from a car at nearby Bayswater High School wearing a man's shirt and green garbage bags. She told police her attacker had made her shower and brush and floss her teeth. So he's a clean freak, this bloke. Now, you think they would have been able to get some DNA off her shirt, off the shirt, wouldn't you? Anyway, he had kept her blindfolded through the ordeal and given her food while she was being assaulted. We can only dread what the man would have done if the girl had pulled off the blindfold and seen his face. It was that close to being a homicide. So I think this is what they think happened with Karmein, and maybe it was. So the next attack came 18 months later, July the 3rd, 1990 in Canterbury. Both parents were out for dinner with friends, but their daughters, a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old, were home. Mr. Cruel broke into the house armed with a gun and knife and threatened the sisters before bundling the 13-year-old in a stolen rental car. Now, he asked her to bring her uniform with her. He told her to go and get her school uniform. And bear in mind, she went to the same school as the next victim, the poor girl that he shot 3 times, or if it was him. So he obviously, this is what, you know, there was a 13-year-old girl and a 15-year-old girl in this house. He wanted the 13-year-old. So that's where his, that's where his attractions lie, for the younger one, and made her take a long uniform. So has he been outside that school watching all the kids going in and out, following them home, maybe the ones that live nearby, to find out where they live, watching them for a while, you know, to find out what the family circumstances are. And there's that photo again. So then she was not returned for 50 hours. God, so that's, you know, that's over 2 days, isn't it? Poor thing. And anyway, luckily she was, he dropped her off blindfolded and wrapped in a blanket at power substation in Kew. So she reported she'd also been made to brush her teeth, wash herself thoroughly. She'd been given food and water regularly while she was held captive. Her abductor had watched a press conference in which her father pleaded for the return of his daughter and had spoken to the girl about it. So by now they did have a little bit of a description of the offender. Caucasian, aged between 30 and 50, from 173 to 180 centimetres tall, medium build with a small pot belly. And 9 months after his abduction, after Nicola's abduction, this is when it's thought that he kidnapped Karmein. He appeared again on April the 13th, 1991 at Templestowe. And John and Phyllis Chan were at work in their Chinese restaurant, leaving daughters Karmein, Carly and Karen, 7, at home. Armed with a knife, he forced Carly and Karen into a wardrobe and disappeared into the night with Karmein. And this time there would be no family reunion, because a year later, on April the 9th, 1992, a dog walker, it's always a dog walker, I'm always dreading I'm going to find a body when I'm walking the dogs, found Karmein's decomposing remains near a landfill site at Thomastown. She'd been shot 3 times in the head. Detectives believe Karmein may have seen Mr. Cruel's face or recognised him in some other way, leading to him killing her. And this was the last attack attributed to him. So yeah, what happened to him? Did he die? Did he get ill? Did it frighten him because he'd gone too far with Karmein? And, you know, maybe, I don't think killing was in his... because he didn't kill the other girls. I'm not trying to say he's some sort of fantastic person, but yeah, I think you probably understand what I mean. He didn't kill the other girls, and he could have killed them. And he didn't. So we've got to presume that wasn't something that maybe came easy to him to do. you know, and with Karmein, did she see him? You know, did she recognize him? Maybe she recognized his voice. You know, the thing is, if he's been hanging around these schools and these girls, he might even be connected to that school. He could work at that school. Maybe Karmein recognized him, his voice or something. So over the next couple of years, Task Force Spectrum would examine 30,000 houses and eliminate 27,000 persons of interest from their inquiries. And a poster featuring the faces of Sharon, Nicola and Karmein and the details of their abductions was distributed to 1.4 million homes. And the FBI provided a profile. From 2010 to 2013, police brought together under Task Force Apollo re-examined the crimes attributed to Mr. Cruel, but still the identity of the offender eluded them. And not all investigators are convinced that Karmein's murder was committed by Mr. Cruel. I'm not convinced either. I wondered if that didn't give them, you know, if there's a possibility that the fact that she went to school with the other victim, that might have given them an idea of it, you know, to cast suspicion on Mr. Cruel. Anyway, even the name given to the offender by a Melbourne newspaper has caused police problems because they say he's unlikely to seem cruel to those around him. Well, he won't. He walks amongst us, doesn't he? He's probably married, got kids. He's probably a great guy. He's like your best neighbour. He'd do anything to help. You know, we've seen it a million times. He would just be a normal guy, you know, that nobody would ever think. And this Mr. Cruel nickname, it came, you know, that came from the Sun newspaper, apparently. And yeah, it is possible that he stopped abducting children after Karmein's murder. Now, it's possible, but you know, we know from everyone who knows anything about true crime knows, it's rare that they ever stop. They can't stop, so they're normally stopped, aren't they? Because they get arrested or because they're ill or because they die or they move on. If he's moved on to another country or to another, he'll still be doing it or doing something like it. It'd be, unless it really did, unless that just sent him too far over the edge, you know, killing Karmein. Maybe he just felt so terrible about it. Maybe that's when he got married and had kids of his own, because sometimes that, you know, these killers, I know that happened with the Green River killer. It's happened with loads of killers. When something improves in their personal life, you know, that they get married or they have children or something good happens, they do sometimes stop for a while. It's when it all goes wrong again that they start it all up again. But, you know, yeah, he'd be, because this was in the 90s, so where are we, 30 years ago. I mean, you know, he still could be, he could have been in his 20s then, and he could only be in his 50s now. It's not that old, is it? It's not that old when you're older than that. But yeah, so that's the story of Mr. Cruel's so far. So I'm glad for somebody who mentioned it in one of the chats of one of the unsolved cases that I was doing before, because I really didn't know much about this at all. I'd seen the name. I've never looked into it in any way, shape or form. I've watched quite a lot of different videos about it today. It's an interesting case. And do you know what? I feel like maybe he may, you know, it's a shame that there's no DNA, but you do feel that maybe they will, find out who he is. Let's hope so. Seems like he's not done anything since, and maybe he's not doing anything now. But just looking at this, you know, it's terrifying, isn't it? Those poor girls, what they went through. And in fact, let's light a little candle for Karmein there. Okay, so thanks for watching. I'll see you really soon in the next video. don't forget, why not become a member? Then you can suggest a case for me to cover. As I say, I've been concentrating on unsolved murders lately, but that's not, you know, that's not the only thing that I cover. So I've done, I'm going to be doing the case of the 3 British girls that I'm going to look at who are unsolved. But when I get around to doing that, that might be the next video that I do, but other videos keep coming up. There's always something to talk about in the world of true crime. But yeah, and yeah, don't forget to like, please. Don't forget to subscribe, pretty please. And I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, as always, may your God go with you.